Hello, everyone. I'm so excited today. I have a very, very, very special guest. He's my friend. We've been along our travel journey for a few years now, so we're gonna really get to know and dive in with Barron today. But this is his first official YouTube. And what it is we're going to talk more about this. It's just jumping in head first and just going outside our comfort zones. And we always talk about it. But there's one thing is to talk, another thing is to do. And so he actually started his YouTube channel today. And it's my honor to just be a part of that, creating that memory with him. But he and I have been talking about flight attendants and how to get started. I have always been fascinated with the whole world of what it takes to be a flight attendant, how you get into the industry, how do you choose that as a career, and how can you be successful in this field. And there's so many things that I am excited myself to dive in with Barron, but also I know this is going to help a lot of people who want to get into this industry. So thank you everyone for being on with us. Barron, how are you doing today this afternoon, and where are you located right now?
Awesome. Thank you, Hawaii. Yes, well, to answer your question real quick, I'm in St. Louis, Missouri on a layover. Beautiful city here. Actually, after we're done here, I'm supposed to go with my crew members. We're gonna walk down to the arch, and so I have some content to show y'all later. So go to my YouTube page, B Experiences Travel Group. But yeah,
But yeah,
I'm doing amazing, and I just want to say thank you so much, Hawaii. Like just for all you do for me in my business, my personal life, or my business. It's there's just so much reciprocity, love, and respect. I just adore our relationship. I thank God, my higher power, every day for you being a part of my tribe now, my circle. So you just help me in so many ways. There have definitely been times where I've just wanted to give up on my business or like even quit my job sometimes. And I'm always sending you a text or sending you a call or see you on something business oriented or just hanging out, and it just really gives me that you're like an oxygen mask, right? That I'm able to sort of breathe again in a sense. So I don't have to look at you as an AD yet or anything. So I'm using some of these terms, y'all. AD is basically a defibrillator. That's something you use on the plane if someone's heart stopped, whatever, kind of give them a shock. But anywho, yeah. So just thank you for all that you do for this opportunity. So great, excited. I am amazing and wonderful. So yeah, I'm ready to get this
this
thing
thing
all rolling.
all. I love it. I love it. Okay, everyone. So before we really dive into the subject matter today, which is how to become a flight attendant with Barron, who has been in the industry for quite a while, he's going to share with you all his experience. But before we really get to the meat of this whole interview, is first of all, we want to go ahead and go to our Facebook right now, Baron, to make sure that you're on my Facebook Live and share it with your on your page because we want as many people as possible to be listening in. I know this has been, I'm sure, on a lot of people's minds. They're working, and I'm really sure there are people that really want to get into the industry, being a flight attendant, working for the airlines, and have thought about it but don't know how to go about doing it. So, this is really going to help some people today. So, I'm really excited. So, we're going to take a few seconds to do that. And if you are on our live, watching right now, we would love some cooperation and love emojis, comments, anything that you can put in, and we would love to see interaction. Not only that, if you have been a flight attendant yourself or you are a flight attendant now, put in the chat, let us know where you're based out of and how long you've been in this industry as well. And if you can share tips and strategies as we're giving you more information on this subject matter, we would love to hear from you. And if you have questions, put in the chat because we can answer some of those questions live. This is really special because you're getting the inside scoop from somebody who is in the industry right now, not that they used to do it or they thought about doing it or they've been retired for 10, 20 years, right? Because every year things change, rules change, regulations change. Barron is still active right now in between flights at his hotel, so that is not a screen. That's real hotel stuff. So I'm gonna go for 2 seconds right now on my Facebook. And let me tell you something. I have been at this with Barron for quite a while, and I've been wanting to do this with him for so long. I kept asking, when are we going to do this? And he said, yeah, I'm ready. But timing is everything. So today just is the day. So thank you so much, everyone, for being on. Give us some hearts, give us some emojis. Let us know your name if you're watching, where you're residing out of. If you are in the travel industry in any capacity, we want to know that as well, because Barry and I just love travel period. So here we are. Thank you again. So we're gonna dive in. If you can just share with us, Barron, who you are, how long you have been a flight attendant, and if you feel comfortable sharing who you work for, that's great. If you don't and you want to protect certain information, that's fine too. So just let's get to know Barron right now.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Yeah, we'll just go ahead and put it out there. I'll say this because, well, I mean, I guess it doesn't matter. I work for American Airlines, so it's out there. It's totally fine. Yeah, I've been a flight attendant for 8 years. It'll be 9 years in April. It's been great. So my name is Barron. We'll just put it out like that. I am originally from Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. So I'm a South Carolina native. I currently reside in Greensboro, North Carolina right now. I'm based in Charlotte. That's one of the cool things about being a flight attendant is definitely the flexibility, even in terms of, flexibility of schedule, but even more so, you can live in one place and be based out of another one. So when I say that I'm based in Charlotte, that means my trips start and end in Charlotte, but I live in Greensboro. There are people that I know that commute, if you will, from like other countries. This one lady, she will work her schedule for 2 weeks and then she'll fly to Athens, Greece to be home for 2 weeks. There are people commute from Japan, just all over. There are some ladies that are based in Charlotte and they live in Los Angeles. So that's kind of one of the cool things. As long as you just have to make sure you're able to get to work, right? But yeah, I'm a husband, I'm a dog dad, all that great stuff. I love helping people. I'm the youngest of 5 kids. My dad's deceased, which he died like a year after I was a flight attendant. So it was cool. He was still able to sort of see me go from being in the military because I was an Army chaplain as well. So that's another part of my story. I have a bachelor's degree in Christian education. I have a master of divinity in pastoral care and counseling. That was a prerequisite to become an Army chaplain. I've done some of everything, to customer service, to waiting tables, to work in retail clothing stores, what have you. I enjoy volunteering. I'm in a fraternity, all of those great things. I do not have any kids. I've got over 19 nieces and nephews, so they are my kids. I mean, they bring, and I'm a great uncle, y'all. I have a little nephew. His name is Ace. He lives out in Seattle, Washington, and he is, I think, 4 months, 3, 4 months. So even as a great uncle, so the range from there, and his mom, which is my niece, obviously, she is 33, if I'm not mistaken. So, all of those ages. And so, yeah, I love everything travel. I love being a flight attendant. It's just a great life. It really, really is. I couldn't ask for anything better.
So let's start with that. You've done so many things through the years. What was it that made you step into this career 9 years ago? That's almost a whole decade. And let me tell you something, 7 years in anything that we do consistently, you are now the expert. How is that? How does that look like? And tell us your start, your beginning into this career.
Absolutely. Great question. I love that. So yeah, the first thing that came to mind is with what you said earlier, that timing is everything. It is so true. And for all of the listeners, even I think this way too, like we all think, I just think as human beings that we have a lot of time, y'all, and really we do not. So I know a great philosopher, Eminem, he says if, given the opportunity, and I'm probably gonna mess the quote up a little bit, but if given the opportunity, would you take it if you were given one chance, would you seize the opportunity? Something along those lines. Look it up. It's by Eminem. But the idea is, hey Michelle, the idea is to really just take the opportunity when you have it. And so I could just give a quick backstory. So when I was 15, that was my first time being on a plane, first time traveling, and I went with my high school. She ended up being my AP English teacher, but she it's a company called EduTour. So she was like the lead, the group leader. Anybody in my high school, Myrtle Beach High School, home of the Seahawks, go Seahawks. Anyone who wanted to go, you just either raise your own money or your parents pay for it, whatever. And we got to go to Paris and London. We were on British Airways airline. I remember getting on the plane and beautiful flight attendant, just greeting, smiling. I just always thought it was really, really cool. And I found that I fell in love with just flying, period. Like taking off was fun. It's weird that planes don't always smell the best, but for me, I was like, I love the smell of this blue leather and just there were TV because on British Airways, that's an international airline, if you will, and there were screens on the TV, so I thought that was cool. At this time, that's where you had the phones on the bottom of the screen, so you can take the phone out if you need to make a call, maybe in an emergency. They don't have those obviously on the planes anymore nowadays. But even from there, I just fell in love, and so when I finished graduate school, I'd actually applied because I was in the Army Reserve. So when you're in the Federal Reserve, it's part time. You do 1 week in a month of drill, 2 weeks annually for your annual training. And so I still need a full time job. So when I finished graduate school, I had applied to an airline like once every year, basically, and I could never get in. And so it's just something I always wanted to do because I love, I mean, travel is in my DNA. Like it runs warm through my veins as long as I'm alive. And I love people. So I was like, oh, I get the best of both worlds. I can travel all over the world, experience new cultures. And it was really from the first time that I went to London and Paris that I felt like my worldview changed. Like it helped me to appreciate, you know, the life that I live, in a middle class family, and just all of the life experiences that I had, like it gave me a greater appreciation. And so I've always learned about different cultures, just sort of meeting people where they are. Like I feel like it helped me a lot. And so when the opportunity came in 2015, I had went online, I applied. It's just a kind of standard application, your education history, work history, all that good stuff. Then you do an online assessment, which probably, I don't know, maybe took 30 minutes to an hour, just depending on there was time limit if memory serves me correctly. You do that, and then I was like, oops, this is gonna be a repeat. Maybe it's not meant for me to do. 7 months I waited before I heard anything after I did my assessment. Well, after my assessment and then virtual interview, which was like a pre-recorded thing. You weren't talking to anyone live. It's just you and the computer. That's so that the airline can see what you look like. You want to smile, obviously, all those things. So it gives them sort of um, a preview of who you are before actually inviting you to a face-to-face. So I waited a whole 7 months, and I said it was my post-Christmas gift because on December 28th, I got a call from the airline. They was like, yep, we'd like to invite you for a face-to-face. Now, me, I say this humbly, if you give me an interview, I'm going to get the job. That's just how my life has gone, just my experience. I've had great education, great upbringing. So all of those things sort of come into play, and the skills that I'm able to give a company has really benefited. I'm one of the faces of the company. If you don't know, you can look me up. But yeah, and so that's how I got my start, and it's just really, really been an amazing journey. You meet people from all walks of life. A lot of times you think that people are always traveling, going on vacation, but me as a flight attendant, y'all, and having that heart of gold in a sense, that I have a heart for people. And I'm an empath. If you don't know what that is, look that up too. But it's really where you like really feel the vibe and energy of someone else. And so I have found out that sometimes people on a plane, they're traveling to go and you know um, carry out the last wishes of their loved one. People have come on the plane with urns, and or someone might be going for someone who's on their deathbed, or I mean even people are going like, oh, I have a relative who has to be in court, and it's like this major. So people are going for all different things. Of course, the celebratory stuff or whatever, and so it kind of again gives you a different outlook on the world, on life, and those type of things. So yeah, I hope to answer the
The
question.
question.
Yeah, so it took you about 7 months. How many applications did you have to put in? Why American Airlines? Have you tried different airlines as well, hoping to get one of them to return your, uh, give you an answer for your applications?
Yeah, great question. So I graduated graduate school or seminary in that's the theological school if you don't know what seminary is. 2009. So I'll say it was I still count on my fingers, y'all. Like total 6 years journey for just trying to get into an airline. So since I went to graduate school in Atlanta, I was like, oh, let me apply to Delta. I applied to Delta once a year for 3 years. Never could get past the application process. Didn't like I didn't do the assessment or anything. It was like thanks but no thanks. And why American? It gave me the opportunity. I'd heard of American. I had flown them before. We're now the world's largest airline. But really, at this point in 2015, I was just wanting to work for any airline. I had even applied to United Express, which is like a regional carrier. That means they have just much smaller planes. We call them commuter planes, where it's like no more than it can be no more than 50 or no more than like 100 people on the plane that or the capacity. And so I had even applied to United Express at one point to be a ramper, handling bags or whatever it may be. And so didn't get that either. But I did American because I knew it was, a reputable company. It was, like I said, even large at that time in 2015. And I mean, they gave me the opportunity. Now it took 7 months to get there, but yeah, it was like several applications with American. Thankfully, I got it on the first go round, so I didn't have to reapply or anything. And I'll just go ahead and put that out there since I'm kind of talking about it. Definitely, some of the requirements that you have to be obviously you have to have a high school diploma, just for starters. You also need to be able to pass a background check, and I can let you know too. In terms of the background check, they just look to make sure that you haven't had any like FAA violations, like hitting a flight attendant or smoking on a plane, any kind of those in federal infractions when it comes to aviation. That's really what they're looking for. Um, and then you need to be able to also pass a drug test. And you have a good resume. What a lot of the airlines will look for is that you have some type, at least 2 years experience, either in customer service. So that could be at a call center, working in retail. So that's either sales experience or in the hospitality industry. Sometimes they look for people who maybe worked in hotels or they look for travel agents. Think about it. So, if you're a travel business owner and you want to become a flight attendant, that'll definitely show and be good if you don't have any other kind of experience. But they just want to see that you work with people, you know how to work with people, you have some type of experience in conflict resolution. So, obviously, when you work with people, whether it's in a retail store or in a hotel or a car rental place, or if you work for a cruise line, you're always going to deal with irate customers. And so they want to know that you just have experience with people. So those are some of the things that a lot of times the airlines will look for too, and some of the
Very
minimum.
good. I love those tips. So let's talk about that. Before applying, what are the expectations people should have? Let's go with this first. This is the one scenario this may help someone. If they are working a job, but they want to transition into being a flight attendant, right? What should they expect? Because you want to be also realistic in expectations. Because if you are going to get it, what does that look like? Because the time frame, it seems like to me, you don't really know when they will give you a call back, interview, and once you interview, you are going to get some sort of training. And what does that look like? Do you get paid during those times? What should people expect if they have a job right now, but they want to transition into becoming a flight attendant? So that way they'll understand it's not that easy. Boom, click, and you start your job and you make all the money. So share with us with the expectations.
Absolutely. First thing that comes to mind, and that's one of the things that I'm grateful for my military experience because it taught me adaptability. They in the army they said you have to adjust and drive on. So in the aviation industry, even once you get in, I mean, things literally change by the second. Anybody who's ever traveled, like when delays come, so you have to, kind of be aware of that as well. But in terms of the job in particular, and the reason why I say adaptability and patience is because even for me, so I applied. A week later, I did an online assessment. A couple of days later, I did a virtual interview. Then it was 7 months. Well, when I actually got to my face to face, it was a group interview. It's the way that most airlines will do it. That's like your first set. You do the group interview, then you would move on to a face to face. I mean, not a face to face, a one on one with a recruiter, and then from there they'll give you like a COJ, as we call it, which is a contingent job offer. I mean CJO, contingent job offer. But in that group interview, you're meeting people from all over the country, sometimes all over the world. People have a work visa. They could be from. I mean, I have their flight attendants who are from Japan, born and raised in Japan, or Romania, or Hungary, whatever, Vietnam, and when you meet them, then you hear people's processes are different. Like there's some people who applied, I mean, it was like boom, boom, boom. So that's why I say you have to be adaptable. You have to be patient. Um, Sometimes it's hard to say what airlines recruitment team might be going on or going through or dealing with. It depends on how many applications that they get. My instructors told me, well, the lady who was head of the recruitment team that I went with, she was telling me that particular year in 2015, because I graduated 2016, I started training like in February that year. But the time when I submitted my application, they had gotten over 300,000 applications in 2015 for our classes to start, and my class was only 60 people. So they do say that trying to get into the airline industry is even harder than trying to get into an Ivy League school. That's what they compare it to. And so yeah, that's pretty much the process on what you can expect when you do get a CJO. That's usually, at least in my experience, so I can obviously that's all I can speak from. After they give you a contingent job offer, obviously it's contingent upon you passing a drug test and a background check. So they do your standard fingerprinting, which is the office. And when you are invited to face to face, most of the time, an airline they fly you usually to their headquarters. So they'll fly you there from wherever you live, and then they fly you back, on their dime. Um, so, if all that is done, then what you have to do is they'll give you a start date. So you're still not technically hired. You're not an employee yet because you have to go through training. For me, it was 6.5 weeks. Now at American Airlines, it's 5 weeks or 5.5 weeks. There's some airlines, I don't know which ones in particular, they do pay you. At American, they do not. So you have to prepare for that as well. So if you are thinking about something and you are currently working, it's good to like save up, or if you have credit cards. I know my airline's credit union, they offer during train, like they'll come in the first 3 days and they'll offer you kind of like just a little starter loan to sort of get you through, maybe a few $1,000s, and it has a very low interest rate. So there are ways in which they help you sort of work through not being paid. They do house you. You get 3 square meals every day, pretty good food as well. They even provide you snacks. Y'all, with the 6.5 weeks in flight attendant training, I gained 15 pounds because of those snack tables. I didn't go for the apples and the oranges and the bananas they have on there. I wanted the cookies, the chips, all of that stuff that we go towards. And so, yeah, you have to get through the training. You have to do everything that they ask for. The early mornings, late nights, information overload. What some people don't know is flight attendant training. We spent, out of 6.5 weeks, there was one day where we spent talking about service. And depending on where you're based, let's say like if I were based in Dallas and I work flights to Narita, Japan, or Haneda, Japan, there's a certain service. So, there's a lot about cultural sensitivity and all those kinds of things. So depending on where you base, you might have to do some extra service training. But generally speaking, blanket during your initial, as they say, your initial qualification training, they spend one day on service. So the majority of your training is about emergency procedures, the commands that you call, getting CPR. So you're not like Red Cross certified, because you're working under the airline certification, if you will. But in terms of being an employee, or as a flight attendant, I am trained to administer CPR. How to operate all the emergency equipment, oxygen masks. There are different types of oxygen masks. You learn about the different types of planes. just a lot of procedures, what to do in a medical situation. So it's all about safety. So flight attendants are not glorified waiters. If anyone out there has ever said that, shame on you. I'm just joking. It's okay. But don't say that anymore, because we are safety professionals. And so going through that training, you're actually FAA qualified. I'm going to show you something really cool. So once you graduate training, you actually get this little card, and it says United States on there. I don't know if you can see it. So this is an airman card. And so it basically, comes from the Department of Transportation, Federal Aviation Administration. It has my name, my address, like my nationality, my height, my weight, and it says flight attendant on here. And then I have a certificate number, and it shows the date of issue. So it's just really cool. It's kind of like, yeah, it's just an official FAA certification.
That's really cool.
Absolutely.
Did
I
I
almost
distract? I apologize. Did I distract you? You were gonna flow too. That was you on a flow. So 6 weeks for you then, but now it's 5 weeks. And how about once you finish your training, do you have a start date right away? And where do they decide to base you out of? Do you have a say so, a request for the city where you want to have a base? And explain to us what that means as having a base, because I see that flight attendants fly everywhere too. So then they're like, I live here, but my base is there. And so if you can explain, that would be great as well.
Yes, absolutely. So you do have a start date. So when you start training, obviously, if you're at American, so it's, I believe we're going to just go with, let's say, 5.5 weeks. I think that's what it is now, because they cut out some stuff, and then we don't have as many aircrafts anymore, and so it doesn't require as long. But when you know your start date, like you pass your drug test, background check, all that good stuff. Then yeah, the company calls you and say, hey, this is when you're going to start training. So you know when you're going to start training. 5.5 weeks later, you know when you're in. After that, they give you 5 days to get your affairs in order, like whether you're going to move to your base or if you're going to commute, it's okay. But it's basically like moving time. I forget the terms that they use. But yes, you do know when you will officially start. And in terms of having any say so in where you're going to be based, yes, you do. So for me, so if you don't know this too, uh, in aviation, or I'll just say in the airline industry, everything is based on seniority. So that means when you first get started, you might not get the best schedules. You may not be able to go international a whole lot, or even domestically. You might be working 4 flights a day on a 3-day trip, instead of, one or two flights. And so during training, there comes a point in time, or again, I have such a habit of saying it, but you're speaking for me, and so I'm just going to tell you again about my experience. So when I went through, since we didn't have seniority numbers, and until you go all the way through training and you actually graduate, at that point is when you are officially on the airline's payroll. That's when you become an employee on graduation day. Before then, no, because you might be let go, or if you don't pass the exams, they give you only so many tries. So if you were to fail an exam, because there are exams that you have too in training. If you fail an exam, usually you get another opportunity. And if you don't pass, so sometimes people are let go because of that. Then I think you have to wait 6 months to reapply, or whenever they open it up again. But there comes a point in time to where you're able to put in for whatever base you want to be in. Now, when I went through training, it's based on vacancies. So what that means is, let's say Miami, Chicago, New York, Dallas, Los Angeles. We'll just say, so those are 5 options that we had. We basically took out a piece of paper. We, wrote down 1 through 5, and then put down the bases in order of preference. So since you are not an employee, you do not have a seniority number. Since you do not have a seniority number, they have to use some number. So they go off of your age. So in my class, we had a 60-year-old retired school teacher who was doing this as a second career. She was number one, if you will, in our class. So whatever she put down as her first choice, she was going to get it. And it's based on base. So out of those 5 bases, again, it's always in some major city, usually. Um, they're like, okay, we know what type of flights we're going to have for this year. So we need, I don't know, 1,000 flight attendants. So they may have 1,000 vacancies to fill in Miami, and then in New York it may be 1,200, or then in Dallas it may be 800. So it just depends on that, and that's sort of how they are able to place you. Now, another option that you do have is if you get to a base, because I have some friends who wanted to be based in Dallas because that's where they live, that's where their family was. They didn't want to commute, so some of them were had to go to New York. They went to New York for 3 months. Then you can go into the system. You basically put in a transfer. You put in a transfer for Dallas. After 3 months, usually it's like another month or so, and then you're able to transfer, and now you're based in Dallas. And so that's sort of how it works there. That's one of the cool things too that I like. I have been based in New York, is where I started. I was in New York for 3 years, and I went to Philly for a year, and now I've been in Charlotte since 2020. And again, they call it a 3 month lock in. So you're able to base hop so that you can experience different flying. Like in Dallas, that's our headquarters. So they have all the cool flying. I mean, you get to go, because I've never been to even Asia. Thankfully for my, I know we're talking about flight attendant, but being a travel
Travel
business,
business
I'm going
going
to.
You
to.
can talk about your travel business
Okay,
because
Okay.
we talk about you being a flight attendant, but I also want to touch base later in the interview about, as being a flight attendant, what else can you incorporate? Because flight attendants, even though you work a lot of different hours, you do have free time, and you don't want to be bored to tears. So you want to be able to still make extra streams of income and invest and do all the things. Because I know a few flight attendants that do different things as well. So we'll incorporate that later. So just be, we want you to be comfortable talking about your journey as a flight attendant.
awesome. Enough said. So yeah, as a travel business owner, now I get exposed to all these things. So I haven't been to Asia before, but I am going in November. I'm going to Thailand. And so super, super excited. But yeah, so what I was saying is, if you've never been to a certain country and you want to experience what it is, then you can base hop, as we say, or you can transfer to another base, because every base they go to different places. So being in Charlotte, like, we only go to Europe. So that's Rome, Frankfurt, Germany, Munich, Germany, Paris, France, London. I'm probably leaving something else out. And then there's some routes that are seasonal. So y'all, it's just, I mean, it's so much. It is like galaxies of information and moving parts and different elements that go into the decisions on, like, what an airline is going to fly this year. We've got some new routes coming that I can't even remember. It's always a lot to keep up. There's just always something changing, and, like I said, moving every second. But yeah, you do have a say so on where you base. That's pretty much how you start right out of training. And I can't remember what else I was about to say, but maybe I need.
Maybe I need.
That's okay. That's okay. So I now have another question for you, because you were talking about the base you get to pick and you get to, base hop. So what does that mean when you are based out of Charlotte, but you live in North Carolina in Winsboro? So do you fly or drive or have to figure out to get to your base and show up? And is that how it works when you are based like in New York, but you live in North Carolina? Did you have to move there? How do the flight attendants really make that decision, as far as, because that seems like a lot, that's money out of your own pockets to do these things.
Yes, that's right. And I thought you did ask that earlier. Yeah. So what it looks like in terms of being based. So there are few terms. One, there's commuting. So if you are a commuting flight attendant, that just means you're based in one place, but you live in another. And when it comes to bases, just think about like your regular job. So let's say, I don't know, I work for a company like in Greensboro. So I work for a hotel in Greensboro. I get up, I get in my car, I drive to the hotel. Here is kind of the same thing, except depending on where I'm based, yes, I may have to fly. And since, yes, as flight attendants, we get flight benefits, and so I get to fly for free. Domestically, I will say, even if I fly to another country, the airport taxes and fees that have to be paid. So, for instance, I can go to Narita, Japan, as a flight attendant as long as there's seats open for like $40. So that's just kind of cool. I hope that's not. I don't know. That's not proprietary information. I'm about to say, I hope they don't get me. No, it's okay. Um, but yeah, and so that's essentially how it works. So so I live in Greensboro. That really has no bearing on anything. But I'm based in Charlotte, so that means I either fly to Charlotte, which I can do from Greensboro, it's a 30-minute flight, um, or I can drive. It's an hour and 15-minute, hour and a half drive. So when it's time for me to start my trips, I go to I need to get to Charlotte. That's on me. I need to figure out however you get to work, even in a regular job, if you will. That's how you get to work. Even if you have to Uber or what have you. Um, you can live in your base if you want to, or you don't have to. Again, that's what I was talking about earlier, is like that flexibility. So for me, being based in Charlotte, I get to Charlotte, I sign in, or clock in, work my trip, and then like tomorrow, I will go from St. Louis to Charlotte, and then I believe I do a turn, as we call it, which means you go to one city and you come right back to whatever airport you initially started at. And so tomorrow at 3:19, I'm off. So 3:19 p.m. So I drive home or wherever I want to go, and then I'll do it all over again on Tuesday. So like that's my next trip. So yeah, so wherever you're based, again, that just means that's where your trip starts. And then if you're on a 2 day, so when I say a 2 day, that means you're away from home for 2 days. And normally, if it's a 2 day, a 3 day, or even a 4 day, you're staying in different hotels, right? So today I worked 2 flights. I was in Cleveland, Ohio last night. So I went from Cleveland, Ohio to Dallas, Fort Worth, Dallas, Texas. And then I went from Dallas to St. Louis. And so for today, those are just the 2 flights I had to work, which is why I'm in my hotel now. And you can do whatever you want in your hotel as long as you show up tomorrow for pickup. So I have to be ready to leave this hotel at 4 a.m. in the morning. That's 4 a.m. Central, right? We have contracted transportation. So, the company pays for that. They pick us up from the airport to our hotel. And then tomorrow morning, the same transportation company will pick us up and take us back to the airport to start my flights for the day. So yeah, it really just depends on you whether you want to live in base or not. There's some people that don't. When I first started, I was in New York. I did move. I lived in Queens. It was a lot of fun. Oh my God, New York is great. If you've never been in New York, go to New York. It's a booming metropolis for real. You see some of everything. They have great food. I mean, just a cool nightlife. There's just so many people everywhere. If you don't like crowds, then maybe you just need to keep watching movies and look at pictures, because it's always a lot of people everywhere. But I lived there for my first year, and then I met my husband. So then I started commuting. And sometimes people commute also because, like, if you are in New York, it is really expensive. Or if you're based in LA, it's really expensive. So, depending on your financial situation, sometimes people don't have a choice and they have to commute. But I will say commuting can be like an extra job because, again, when we use our benefits, you cannot get on a plane unless they're open seats. So, either people's plans change or the airline, for that particular flight they had seats that were already open, but then sometimes if it's oversold and all that kind of stuff. So the only time I have to spend my own money to maybe buy a hotel, or I could sleep in the airport. In every airport also, there's what we call operations. So every airline has, secret location for their flight attendant or their employees to go, where you can just sit. They have computers down there. If you need to eat and you don't want to be out in the general public in the airport, we have a place where we can go. It's a secured access place, and we just call it operations. So that's what we're able to do. And then there's sometimes people will like sleep in operations because they have sleep rooms. So if I'm in the airport before my next flight, like sometimes we have what are called sit times, so airport appreciation, as we like to call it. So if you have 3 hours between your flights, then I can go into a room that's dark. They have recliners in there, and then I can go take me a quick little nap. And so there's some people who, you're right, if you don't live in Charlotte or wherever you're based, if you don't live in base, then there are some flight attendants they'll sleep. There's some flight attendants who have blankets and they're really, it's like their crash pad. That's what we call them too. So they're also crash pads. There are, whether people that work for the airline or they have a friend that works for the airline, some people have houses. Some people might have a townhome or a condo or an apartment with an extra room, and they'll rent that room out to a flight attendant on a monthly basis. So crash pads, you might pay $250, and at least you have a bed or somewhere you can go. So after your trip, if you don't live in base, then you at least have like it's like a temporary place to stay or a hostel if you they're not quite set up that way, but um yeah, so those are some options as well.
I really like that. Let's talk about time. And you did mention that if you want to be based out of New York, you do have to consider the pay. Does the pay change if you're based out of a different location? Because there's a living cost difference between North Carolina, Charlotte versus Queens, New York. Do you have any advice on that?
Yeah, absolutely, Major. So I do know for a fact with all airlines, again, and this is where seniority comes into play too. Um, like your first year, there's a set amount that everybody makes their first year. So no, it does not change depending on where you live, which is another reason why some people commute because they're like, well, with the pay that I get for a first year flight attendant, a second year flight attendant, even if you've been for an airline at a 5 year pay rate, because again, it's the same for everybody. So every year you'll get a yearly raise, and that's in the airline industry. Every airline do not have contracts. I am a proponent of contracts because my airline does. So we're unionized. So if anything, they're basically there to protect your job, to protect you if the company is doing something that isn't right or accurate. No, nothing is perfect in life, as I think we all would agree. Um, but yeah, so within a contract, um, that gives like all the work rules and like what the company is supposed to do, with you as a flight attendant, what you're supposed to do. And so yeah, so it's blanket. So the longer you've been with a company, the more your pay will increase, and what we call is top year pay, or once you reach the top of the pay scale. So at American, it takes 12 years to get to the top of the pay scale. So once you're there, then that's it. Usually, you still get like the small raise, like a 50 cent or 75 cent raise that the airline will automatically do for you. Um, but yeah, you you just get an opportunity to, and then you can fly as much as you want to as well. The FAA says that a flight attendant can't fly more than 6 days without a 24 rest period. And again, that's because we're safety professionals. Um, Passing out pretzels and cookies or food and drinks is just part of the service. That's just part of customer service. But that's not
That's
our.
not. Let me ask you this. Well, first of all, let's acknowledge everybody that's on with us. Thank you so much, everybody, for watching and staying with us during this interview. This is fabulous, getting some inside scoop, just deep dive into the career of a flight attendant. I love it. So thank you so much for your time. Thank you, Michelle, for your comment. Graciela, for being on with us and your comments. Good afternoon, everyone. Hi, Hin. Hin just had a little baby, so she's on watching from home. Hey, hey, hey. So thank you, everybody, for chiming in. If you have any questions, please put your comments. If you are curious at all, this is your opportunity to really find out from the inside what it's like to be a flight attendant. So I am asking questions. I'm thinking for other people, but also questions because I'm curious. So this is all about me as well, okay? So I want to ask you about the work hours. Do you work a 40-hour work week? And is it 9 to 5? What should people expect? And how do people get paid? I know you should write this, Polly. I asked you multiple questions in one. So let's start out first. Is this a 40-hour work week? And what does that look like? Going to work, clocking in, flying. How do you guys count the hours that you are being paid for as a flight attendant?
Great question. So it is not a 40-hour work week. Again, that's what we love. Most of us, especially if you've been in the industry for a while, it's like just the flexibility. I can't say enough flexibility, which is how people are able to do all kind of stuff. So there are flight attendants who are real estate brokers, or they are estheticians. They do hair on the side, or they help, do people's skin or eyebrows, what have you. Um, yeah, just because of the flexibility. So we get paid based on the flight hour. So I make X amount of dollars. I said I'm not gonna tell y'all but I do good. I'm in a comfortable spot right now. Um, is per flight hour. So that means not specifically when you're in the air, but we always just like to have the door closed. And I'll tell you this little inside thing. Even with the door closed, the pilot still has to release the brake for the clock to start. So once the pilot releases the brake, then we're getting paid. So I have to be at the airport an hour before departure. I'm not getting paid. Um, we receive customers, depending on the size of the aircraft, anywhere from 35 minutes before the scheduled departure. So if a flight is supposed to leave at 8 o'clock, we'll start boarding at 7:30. Or that's just, yeah, depending on the aircraft. So it can be 30 minutes to 50 minutes. When you're on international flights, there's almost like 300 people, so it takes a little longer. So it's 50 minutes prior to departure. So if a flight leaves at 8 o'clock, then obviously you start boarding at 7:10. So when we're receiving passengers, I'm not getting paid. So again, we like to not have any issues. We don't like delays because I'm not getting paid. So everybody's gonna be like, I'm not getting paid. So yeah, so when the door closes is when the clock starts. And so it's a flight hour. So I'll just give you an example. So this trip, based off of the number of hours for each of the flights that I'm working or that I have been working over the past 3 days. So tomorrow's day 3. This trip is worth 15 hours. So you take my hourly rate, multiply that by 15, and that's what I get paid. That's base. We also get per diem. So if you work domestic flights, we'll just say it's a couple dollars, $2. We're just That's not what it is exactly. But and this stuff you can look up if people are research. So again, this isn't proprietary information. Um, and if it's an international flight, then you make $3. So when the per diem comes in, like this layover here in St. Louis is a 17-hour layover, and I'm domestic, so they'll take 17 hours worth of my layover and multiply that by the $2. Then that'll also be on my check. So you get that. And there are a bunch of other little.
Wait a minute. So you don't get paid for those 17 hours layover? So if you're stuck somewhere, you don't get paid for none of that.
Oh no, you do.
But I'm saying only $2 to $3 per diem. That's not much, but okay, keep going.
Yes, exactly. So yeah, it's just like whatever 17 times 2 is. I say $60. Then they'll add $60 in my check for today. Yesterday my layover was 14 hours. So 14 hours times $2.
That's $28. 17 hours is $34. Okay, keep going.
I love it. Yes, give us perspective of why. So yeah, ladies and gentlemen. So so you have your flight hour pay, then you have your per diem pay. There's also, so we're talking about ways you get paid. So if you work a galley position, that means you are the one, like you make the cards and you're breaking the ice and you're putting the snacks in the containers and all that. So you're basically like the chef on the even though you're not cooking food, you work in the galley. So they call it a galley, but that's basically the kitchen. So it's always in the back. You have one in the back of the plane and the front of the plane most of the time. On larger aircrafts that have like 2 aisles, usually that's when you're flying internationally. Those, they may have a galley in the middle. So on those planes, there are 3 galleys. But if you work those, and again, it's depending on the type of the aircraft, then you get like extra $1.50. So it's like little small things, but really when it boils down to it, essentially stated, or succinctly stated rather, you get paid when the doors close. That's just everything. They're just like, that's some other little things that.
Very interesting. Wow, I love that. Okay, I did not know that. So now I'm going to look at flight attendants so differently when there is delay and I'm pissed. I'm going to look at them and say, man, they're only getting paid several hours for sitting there. Woo! I'm going to be so much nicer to flight attendants because of this conversation. Thank you. Oh my goodness. I'm always nice though. But wow, okay. I just always assumed that they would get some kind of like maybe $10, like minimum wage. Okay, so that's good to know. So now I can be more aware. So thank you for the tips. We're definitely gonna cover up so many things in the future, Barron. You just don't know. Be ready, okay? We're gonna do so many podcasts. We're gonna change some lives. Hey, Lori. Hey, Tootsie. Thank you for being on. Terry, welcome, welcome. I don't know how to say his name, but Damien. I think that's right. Thank you for being on with us. So let me ask you about money. So I know we don't want to speak about your pay because we don't want to know your pay. We know that you are a wealthy man. Hey, I'm calling wealth. So, what is the average pay someone should expect working for AA? Because I know it's different for different airlines. in their first year in 2024? Do you happen to know the numbers for that right now, or kind of like an average? What is the year full-time flight attendant? What would they make?
So on average, I believe now it's 30,000 a year. When I started in 20,
What? Excuse me? That's full-time? Wow. Keep going.
but that's working the bare minimum. So let me, we want to do stuff in full transparency. Yeah, that's on average. So if you just work, let's say 70 hours a month for a first year flight attendant, based on your pay rate, even if no matter how long the layovers might be, um, no matter what position you work on the plane, all the other little small dollar amounts that can add up. Yeah, on average, it's about 30,000. Again, that's bare minimum. Um, Again, I don't know if this is an average, but I have spoken to first year flight attendants at AA, and even if they like pick up extra trips. So again, because you can do that too. Like sometimes you have flight attendants that call out sick, or they have family emergencies, or they just don't want to work. Then you can put your trips into the system that we have access to, and you can basically pick up trips, or you can trade trips with other flight attendants. She's like, oh, I really want to, go to that layover. So let me see if someone will trade their trip with me. So you can do that, or that the company may have trips that they need to be filled, and so you can pick those up as well. So it's just like a pool of options, if you will, or a pool of trips, we'll just say, that you can choose from. And so when you do that, then obviously that will add more money to you on a monthly basis. And so,
How about the cap? So what is the seniority? Let's say you start right now about an average of 30. What should someone look forward to, as far as, because we always like to know, I do, speaking for Hawaii, if I were to work a job, what is my earning potential? How high can I go? What is my pay cap, as far as working here 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, looking forward to, knowing what my maximum or what I can go after. So, you can have like some sort of number that realistically, as a flight attendant starting out at 30, is it 50,000 that you can earn in the next 5, 10 years? 60, can you ever earn six figures as a flight attendant? How long would that take you? Those questions, I think, are important to know, not just coming in making 30. What is your potential in this industry?
yeah, absolutely. I love that too. Yeah, there are, I would say, like first year, that's what I was going to say a moment ago. And speaking to a flight attendant who's flown for like one full year or within their first year, what they have gross was like 60,000. So, it's definitely a lot, they kind of double that. I mean, obviously you went from 30 to 60, but that means they were working like 120 plus hours in a month. And when you think about being a flight attendant, some people are like, oh, that's normal. 40 hours a week. If you have a regular 9 to 5 job, that's 120 hours a month. Well, it is completely different. I had to pause for a second. Y'all, it is different going from 0 feet to 35,000 feet or 38,000 feet. You're coming back down. You may have to go up again. Then you come back down. Then you have to go up again. So it's a lot on your body. Like it tires you out. I stopped at Keels in Dallas Airport, and the lady did like this little skin test. Well, I'm 70%. My skin is dry. So I had to get some facial cream and some hydration cream to increase my hydration levels in my face, because it dries out. So that's just like one example, but it does a lot, on your body, which is why you got to make sure you get accurate sleep, and you got to eat right and work out, or whatever you can do, but you really have to take care of yourself, because it can weigh a lot on your body. So for people that fly that much, that definitely is a lot. Then you run the risk of being sick, and then you have to call out of work, or you can't work, obviously. And so you do have that. People that are, so I can say top pay is with our new contract. And again, this is everywhere. So it's $92 to get to top pay. So $92 a flight. That's like $92 and some change. And it'll take you 12 years to get there. I might be 13. I'm messing it up, y'all. Anyway, 12 to 13 years. Let's just say that for you to do that. And
92 an hour to about the average of 12 to 13 years as a flight attendant to get that. Okay. But they starting out about, sounds like 20 something. an
Your
hour?
starting pay is 30, I think.
30? Okay.
$30.
Okay, keep going.
And so yeah, your earning potential is to make six figures. I know flight attendants who make six figures. Um, that's another thing with okay, I can't say that. There are other ways that, we're incentivized and other ways that people have extra income as well without having a side thing. There's certain things you can do within the company that like if it's special assignments or you can like get extra money, but those aren't it's not common, if you will, or always readily available. So it's not like easy to do those things, but there are opportunities to where you're able to make more money. So I would say the highest potential is like you can definitely do that. I know of a person, he was my instructor, and he just shared with us. Now, this is really almost working yourself ragged, but he grossed 1 year. And again, he worked a lot. We'll just say that he worked a whole lot. But he said he grossed almost $250,000. But again, he had been a flight attendant at the time for 20 years. So he was already at top pay. So when you're at top pay, then yes, you can do that. But within your first 5 years, I'll be quite honest, it is a struggle. Again, depending on where you live, like if it's your first job or where you might live, because you have to think about rent, and then if people have car payments, or you've just moved out with your parents, or you've had a roommate for a while, and I don't know, whatever changed, or even just in job transition. And then a lot of times people have gone 5.5 weeks now without pay. So you have to think about that too, right? So then people end up racking up credit card debt and all those kinds of things. And it's a sacrifice. It often will pan itself out. It really does. There are always people to help, or you just have people that do whatever they need to do when this is something that they really, really want to do. If it's a passion of yours, and obviously we all like want the flight benefits. That's why everybody gets in. They may not say that. We don't necessarily say it in the interview, but and it's like a love for people. But yeah, so those would be like the money or the income opportunities or potential. It's like in the six figures.
I really thank you for sharing that, which is a great stride because I know people that work for certain companies and the maximum is 60, no matter what you do, right? So here you can make 100 to 250,000, but you got to put in the years that it would take for you. And I love the fact that you even said that high school diploma, so you don't have to have a college degree to be a flight attendant, which is good news for any of you that want to be a flight attendant. Lori, hello, Lori. And Darian says, awesome interview. And blossom through those menopause moments. That's the name of our handle on YouTube. And she says, what's the best? Thank you. Thank you. Takia says hello. So thank you everyone for watching. This is awesome. Any questions? Put in the chat, okay? Or must be, I'm good at this and I'm asking questions they already thought about. I'm not sure. But this is going so great. Let me ask you about people who working, and then you had said during the pandemic that you didn't get to work for some hours. What would you say are your tips for people who are in the airline industry? What kind of backup plan or advice you would give for them as just to really maximize in this career? Just because things happen, plan A, plan B, plan C. What you've been doing this for 9 years. What would you be your advice when it comes to people who have to be off for 6 weeks, 8 weeks for whatever reason, and what should they do during that time?
Yeah, I love that too. I've learned a lot since becoming. I've personally developed a lot since becoming a travel business owner, and it's one of the things which is why a lot of flight attendants have something else that they're doing outside of being a flight attendant. Not just because we have the flexibility to do so, but because things happen. So we're safety professionals. I remember a young lady. She stepping off of the aircraft, just walking regularly. Some kind of way she broke her ankle literally getting off the plane. So you can't be a flight attendant, and this isn't I don't mean this in a bad way, but you can't be a flight attendant with like a boot on. I mean that's it's unsafe. Unfortunately, like if you can't be walking around with crutches being a flight attendant. For one, how you gonna carry your bags? And so when something like that happens, or if for ladies, if you get pregnant, you have maternity leave and you want to do baby bonding, so you need to be able to have something. Because even if you have accumulated sick time, you might be able to do that. Like if you file for short-term disability, you can get money, but that's still limited. And once it runs out, it's gone. Um, I mean, I will say, I've known people to, mess up their 401k because they don't have a plan B. And so they have to end up taking money out of their 401k, and then that just affects people in in the long run in a negative way. And so definitely having something outside of being a flight attendant, I think is just crucial, because, yeah, like I said, anything can happen. Or like you mentioned before with the pandemic, I was furloughed for 6 months. So in order to keep up with my lifestyle that my husband and I were living, I had to get to in my own life, really, my own lifestyle, I had to get two jobs in order to equate that to what I was making as a flight attendant. And so again, it's just like you just never know. Even in the airline industry, they will tell you, yeah, we've all heard that phrase, don't put all your eggs in one basket. That is so, so true. Hopefully there won't be another pandemic. Um, it's always such a touching moment to us, but hopefully there's never another 9/11 as well. But even if there's none of that stuff, and I would let me be very frank. When we're working for major corporations, or not, no major corporation, non-major corporations, if you will, we're replaceable. And I know, in some states they can fire you for no reason, and in other states you don't. Well, you can, at least I know in North Carolina, and with my company, you can be let go for anything. Or what if you make a mistake, or you get into it with a passenger, or just whatever. And so oftentimes people will um, sort of almost go through a nervous breakdown. Oh, excuse me, because they don't have something outside of being a flight attendant. So I just think it's always good because we have the flexibility, because you never know. So they even my first 6 months, I was on probation. There was a lady that I was working with, and she even told me, Barron, I know there might not be another tragedy within our country that's going to affect the aviation industry or the airline industry, but don't she actually told me that don't put all your eggs in one basket. She said, I do stocks on the side. You should do something like that, or find you something else. I don't know whether you sell something or start you a business, or she even said, yeah, get another job. And so, yeah, it's always, I think, important and vital for even us as flight attendants that you're always going to need something, because you never know what can happen to your plan A.
Yeah, definitely. And during the pandemic, it happened to all of us. It was a scary time. And then the ones that were working, they were at risk every day. I talked to a nurse yesterday, and she said, well, we were not let go, but she said we were scared, because of the job, and they were shorthanded, and they were literally putting themselves at risk every single day when they were working during the pandemic. Other people were stuck at home, they lost their jobs, they were not getting paid, or some people got furloughed. They still had to go to work but not get paid. So all different scenarios. So it's good to always have a backup plan. So let me ask you another question about being a flight attendant. What type of person, because you pointed out some things that make great qualities to be a flight attendant. So let's talk about certain qualities that the aviation industry, the airline industry is not looking for. So if you possess these qualities, this is not a good career for you. What would that be?
First and foremost, which is the obvious, if you do not work well with people and you're not a team player, do not apply. Work at a manufacturing job or do customer service, maybe where you can sit at home behind a desk. So if you're not good with any type of customer facing positions or careers, then yeah, this is not the career for you. If you are challenged with your attitude, this is not the place for you. If you struggle with communicating or learning new things, if you're not adaptable, I will say, if you're a person that is like really, really rigid, and you like, I mean, we do have structure, but you have to be flexible again, right? We have the flexibility, but you also have to be flexible. So if you don't have that, then yeah, this isn't the career for you. If you do not have, if you're not able to, even if you don't have a high EQ, that's emotional intelligence or emotional quotient. If you do not have a high one, that's okay. You need to have one to a degree that you know how to resolve conflict in a way. Even if it's not like you personally, you have to be able to say, okay, you know what, I cannot handle this, so let me get someone else involved, or let me go get another flight attendant, or call the captain, or call an agent, as a flight attendant. Um, that's a really good question.
I have one. How about this? What do you think about people who need more sleep than other people? Because I myself, I need a healthy 6 to 8, and I actually need consistency. And I know friends that sleep, they only need 2 to 4 hours. I think they're perfect to be a flight attendant. I already know that I'm gonna drop food on you. I'm gonna trip in the middle of the night. I can't do what you do, Barron. Not because I don't have the qualities. I love people, and all the things that you said. I think I'll be good. But just from the sleep aspect alone the of the fact that you up and down, you work in the mornings early at 3 a.m. in the morning, 4 a.m., and then sometimes you work late at night. So can you cover that real quick? Because I already know that I am not made for that. So we want to really point that out because Barry works some crazy hours, guys. Crazy. So he's amazing at what he does because he's been doing this 9 years. So is it because you only need 2 hours of sleep? Is that why?
No, I love sleep. And so, when my husband, I first started, he was like, why do you come home and you sleep all the time? Like, when I call you, you're laying down in your hotel room. And then the next day I call you, you're still on your trip and you're laying in your hotel room. I'm like, well, it does a lot on your body. And y'all, it's different. Like when you first get started, it's exciting, to stand up. Like I remember my nephews, because they don't travel a whole lot. And so every time that they do travel, just staying in a hotel room, have access to a pool and I don't know, being able to run outside, like it's just kind of cool and different. And I think especially for kids, right? Even though they're teenagers. But even for me as an adult, like I started as a flight attendant when I was 32. And so even in just going in, different hotel rooms, I thought it was cool. But for me, I don't know about anybody else. I mean, you sleep, but you don't sleep that well because it's not your bed. For me, you become very vigilant about cleanliness as well. So a lot of times, I got all kinds of gadgets, whatever, make sure like there are no bed bugs and like it's just a lot of stuff. Ain't no telling who slept in the bed before me. Like, did they really change the sheets or did they just make up the ones that someone just slept in? So it's all of these things that you think about. And then especially like if you have early morning, I can lay down and go to sleep, but then I'm like waking up because I'm like, oh my goodness, I don't want to be late for pickup. That's so punctual. Oh, that's another thing. If you are not punctual, this is not the job for you. We have right start flights. The airlines get a lot of accolades and bragging rights, and like even affects airlines financially for on-time departures, right? So that's always key. So if you cannot be on time, people have been let go because they get to the gate late or they sign in late, and so and it's a ripple effect. Especially if it's a flight in the morning, every plane has a destination to go, has a route that they do for that particular day. And so if one flight is delayed, then it's going to cause a ripple. And if you're the reason for that, they're going to say, no, you're a liability. So you have to be let go. But no, so it's and that's also too, sleep is important because you're safety professionals. So there is a thing in the airline industry where people will inadvertently blow slides. Every aircraft has an actual slide to it. So like if you got to get off the plane, God forbid if an engine is on fire, you've got to get off the plane quickly. So when the door is armed and it's open, there's a slide that will deploy so that people can get off the air, right? Because well, it's probably like 30 feet or so, a plane off the ground. So you got to have a way to get out the plane if you don't have it attached to a jet bridge or stairs. If you're just out on the runway somewhere and yeah, people have got to get out. That's what's needed. And so flight attendants sometimes will open the door in the arm mode and that causes a slide. And it's like, wait a minute, we're not evacuating. And it's because of lack of sleep is like one of the number one offenders, or they're distracted, talking to someone and not paying attention to what they're doing. So no, sleep is very important. Scheduling is all over the place. So again, that's what I say, you have to be adaptable. So like when I started this trip, I had to leave my house at 4 a.m. in order to be to the airport at 6. There's sometimes to where I work flights at 5 a.m. Then I have to leave my house at 2:30 to be at the airport in enough time. So it's crazy. And then I will mention this too, that because we're unionized, we have a contract, but not even, let me take that back and forget it. The FAA states within our contract that we cannot be on duty for more than 15 hours. So that's another reason why we do not like delays, not just because we're not getting paid, but because it just prolongs our day, when you weren't really expecting that. And so yeah, it's just like nothing standard. It's very different in terms of the hours you work, and times you go out, when you are on your layovers, like you have to factor all of that in. So it's even a lot of moving parts just with you personally as well.
Oh my goodness. Hey, my friend Rhonda is on and she's a flight attendant as well. So if you leave some comments, you're still watching. Hi, Rhonda. She's also in the travel industry as well. She also owns her travel business. She's a flight attendant. So hello. Hi, Amanda. Thank you. Thank you. Heidi says hello. And Cassie was on early, and LaShawn. Welcome, welcome. Thank you for watching. We are closing on the end of our interview because we've been at this for almost an hour, I believe, and I think we did really well. I think I covered almost everything. If I missed on something, please let me know. So punctuality is one of the most important things about being a flight attendant. So if you're a punctual person or you can develop punctuality, this may be the career for you. But if you are always usually the late one, thinking you have more time than you do, not a good career for you. So, Barron, if you were to miss your flight as a flight attendant, do you have strikes like strike one, strike two, strike three before you get let go? Or do they just let you go? And if you did miss it and they're expecting you to be there, and they're expecting this airline, I mean this plane to have five attendants, but you only have four, how do you guys make that work?
Yeah, great question as well. So I'll answer your last question first. Yeah, so that's another thing with the FAA is minimum crew, as we call it. Um, um, oh my goodness, lost my train of thought. Yeah, you have to have there's a certain number of people you have to have even before you can start boarding. Um, so that usually does it. That's usually not an issue. Because like we all know, and they drill it into our heads, like minimum crew, minimum crew, minimum crew. Usually for most aircrafts, it's anywhere from three people to board a flight. That's like on the little smaller planes that we have that seat about 120 people, and then all the way up to like 10 flight attendants for the really really big planes. And so you just have to make sure that happens. And yes, there is, just like in any other job, if you miss a flight or there's some type of performance issue, if you're late for the flight, then you may have a coaching by your manager. Then they'll give you a first written warning, a second written warning, or no, it's like, anyway, yeah, there's steps to it. So you have a like kind of like a coaching, then there's a verbal warning, then I think you have one, two, three, and then a final. So they do give you a lot of chances. And I will tell people, being a flight attendant or in the airline industry, being a flight attendant, sometimes there is a high turnover rate because people come in and it's not what they expected, or they find out they don't like it. Another reason why you need to have a plan B. And so in those instances, the reason why it can be so difficult to be let go, because I said earlier, I was like, yeah, no, they just let you go. Sometimes they don't, because I know at AA, when I went through training, I remember in conversation, and it came out that it cost the company to, which is probably why they don't, at least AA, they don't pay us. Maybe other airlines, they're able to work stuff out, but it costs about, I know in 2015, it cost the company $35,000 per person to put.
Wow. Just to go through the training process per person. That's incredible.
Right.
Right. Good information. Good to know. Wow.
Yeah.
That's a lot of spending to make sure that flight attendants are good at what they do.
Yeah, precisely. Because you have to pay the instructors, and they feed you 3 days. They have to pay these hotels to house you. So all of that, and so because it is such a huge financial investment, they're like, no, and then there's a lot of time that goes into it. They took months and all this. So that's why I say it is kind of hard to, get let go. And of course, you don't want to do it. I'll say this too. I don't believe there's a blacklist, but there have been flight attendants who like get let go from one airline and they'll go try another one. The same thing happens. A lot of times people themselves can be the problem, and not it's like they end up doing airline hopping. Then eventually you apply for airline and nobody will hire you, because like words still can get around, and you don't know who in HR knows someone in HR at another airline. It's like, look, if this person comes through your if you see their application, don't you hire them. And so yeah, it's great. I don't.
So listen, I love it. I love it. You covered everything we needed to know about the complexities of being a flight attendant. And Cassie said hello. I don't think I could be a flight attendant, but thank you for the information. We helped saved you. We helped save you years of wanting something, because you know how sometimes when you want it and you don't get it right away, you want it more. Kind of like when you apply and you didn't get, you're like, what's wrong? They should they should hire me. But it's always good. That's why it's always good to do your research and understand. You got to understand your personality. You got to understand what you're capable of, what you're willing to do to change, so you can become a better person, to be a great flight attendant. So let's talk about the wonderful world of being a flight attendant. Why you love it 9 years later. I know that you have another business as well, because we want freedom in the process, making more money as well. But let's talk about people that are wanting to be in this industry. What are the wonderful things about it that you have talked to other flight attendants, why they smile and why they enjoy doing this career?
Yes, absolutely. And I was gonna say that's probably why a lot of people say a glorified waiter in the air. Um, we're not waiters in the air. Again, I'll just clear that up. But one thing that's right about that phrase, it really, when it really boils down to it, it is really a glorious life. So just being able to, for me, it's just the access, and the option. So for one thing, I live in Greensboro, North Carolina. My mom lives in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. That's 3.5 hours away. I can get on two 30-minute flights and I'm in Myrtle Beach versus driving 4 hours to go and see her. So, it's just stuff like that. Or, me as a travel business owner, by the way, it's the Be Experiences Travel Group. It's on YouTube. I have a Facebook page as well, or you can just find me, Barron Chisolm-Lucas, on Facebook, and all of my socials are connected. On Instagram, it's Be Experiences is what it's called. So all that great stuff. But yeah, it's just cool because you get to meet people from all walks of life. I feel like it helps you grow. You gain new friends. I also like it, y'all, because even though I love people and I love coworkers that I work with, there have been times to where I have, even in the military, I'm like, I'm tired of seeing some of these people in my unit, or or maybe I don't know, you've had a miscommunication, or you've gotten into it with a coworker or whatever. It's like, I'm just tired of seeing the same people. Um, that's the beauty of it. Normally, you do not work. It's very rare, but sometimes it'll happen. But what's common about it is I never work with the same people every trip. Like the two ladies and the guy that I'm working with, it's possible that I work with them, but I may not work with them for like another 2 or 3 years. And so every time every single trip that I work, I'm always working with somebody different. And if you ever pay attention and listen, especially if it's like the first day of a trip, you'll hear flight attendants say, "Oh, hey, what's your name? Okay, oh, where you from?" Because we're literally like, we're networking. We're, kind of getting to know each other. It's like, I guess, cousins that you're meeting for the first time, or brothers and sisters you're meeting for the first time. So those are some of the things that I like about it. Obviously, just being able to get free flights, and I can travel the world personally, even for work. To me, that is appealing. That to go somewhere cool and to get paid for it. Thank you. Yep, check. Sign me up for that. And Yeah, and then eventually the pay gets to a point to where it's really nice, and then you really don't have to, work a whole lot. There's some people who, and the benefits are great. There are like, airlines have all kinds of contracts or connections or partnerships with just some, any and everybody. So sometimes people like it because there's certain discounts that we're able to get as well. Even if I did purchase a ticket as an employee, which is just like anywhere else, if you work for a restaurant, I'm sure you can get a free meal every day. Like at least I know that's when I work for a restaurant. So the same thing applies. Those are just some of the, for me at least, the great and glorious things about why I've been doing this. And then again, I cannot say it enough: flexibility, flexibility, flexibility. Because even just a little while ago before this call, I was reaching out to some of my prospects, people that are interested in doing what I'm doing on the side as a travel business owner. And then I had a couple payments to process. So I'm able to do this on my layover. So it's like I'm making money from all kinds of ways. And if people say that they don't like money, they are lying, because we all need money for everything, right? I have a 401k and all this kind of stuff, but I still have bills every day. And I've always wanted to have something that I can like leave for my family, or when my mom needs an AC unit, I can just pay it for, and I don't have to take out a loan or use a credit card or borrow from anybody. So that's why I'm in the business that I am in with the companies that I am with, because it affords me the opportunity to really have financial freedom, and also to not have to wait another 5 years, at least because I've been 9 years. Yeah, to not have to wait another 5 years to get to top pay, so that I don't have to work as much. If me working my business the way that I'm working, and if I continue to work it and work it even harder than what I'm doing now, I know for a fact, because there's evidence out there, that I don't have to wait 5 years to work less. I can start the process now with my travel business to begin to dwindle down how much I have to work in order to make ends meet or to pay for stuff, or like, before I was a travel business owner, let me just say this. If I knew something, a trip was coming up, then I'm working 120, 130, 140 hours. Again, y'all, that is a lot for a flight attendant. So that I can save up. So I'm have to work all these hours, just like any other job. Though, people want to work overtime because you've got something coming up that you need for it, and that's because all you have is a plan A. And so, um, that's just kind of, I think, maybe the biggest thing on why I continue to be a flight attendant, because I'm able to get the best of both worlds, and then it gives me an insight even for my business, as my business gives me an insight here. Me as a flight attendant, when I book my travel clients' flights, I know then to give them only 30 minutes between their connecting flights. As a flight attendant, I know you don't do that. And that's what I've told people. They're like, "Oh, yeah, I had a travel agent book this," but they weren't a flight attendant. So so it helps, and it just makes sense, and it goes along really well. But those are a lot of the glorious things I would say about being a flight attendant, and I just
I
love
just
it.
love. Thank you so much for your time. It was so in depth. It's amazing. We appreciate you. If anybody have any more questions, definitely private message Barron, or even me. I'm connected to Barron, and we really want to dive in. So the next things I want to touch base and talk about, our next YouTube adventure, Barron, since he just started his YouTube channel today. We always talking about, adding additional streams of income. We want to empower people to be entrepreneurs, and whatever that looks like, whatever it is that you love to do, that you enjoy doing, find a way to make income from it. But if you can be a entrepreneur from the things that you love doing, definitely do that, and incorporate more and more into your daily method of operation, so that way you can make good use of your time, be productive in all those things. So I would say, do that, guys. And that's why Barron is a flight attendant, and he does own his travel business. But guess what? He just started a YouTube channel. This is another passive income on, sharing information, educating our audiences on what it is that we're doing. So we're not reading information and regurgitating information. We are actually living, breathing examples of what we are currently doing. And so we love sharing that information. We would do that for free anyway, right? But hey, it's great if you get paid on your YouTube channel. So definitely everybody go to his channel, subscribe with Barron. We're going to definitely share with you more about the flight attendant career, the industry, the airline industry. There's going to be so many more. So I do want to talk about the next few times, touch base on funny stories or scary stories. So I think that's going to be so good. So what I want you to do, your homework, I know you got plenty, 9 years, but I also want you to get your little notebook out, Barron, and start reporting, right? Those stories from the people that you meet, because you're meeting new flight attendants every single time you fly. So I know they have funny and crazy stories, maybe crazier, and then we can start rating them the craziest, right? The crazy to the craziest, the funny to the funniest stories. I think that's going to be so much fun. And of course, in our future, I would love for you to also talk to some flight attendants and see if they would be interested in coming on our YouTube in our lives and share their stories of their journey. I think that's going to be phenomenal because every single person is different. Every person has a different journey on why they started, how long it took them to get into the industry. And so we always want to have opinions, but we also want to have facts, and we also want to have real life current stories to showcase with you guys. Thank you so much. Christopher Dayton said, I've read a book about wild flight stories. Yes, I'm sure that is funny and great, but we're gonna hear it live. You guys don't have to read about it. We're gonna talk about it. Hen says she looks forward to it. Thank you so much, everyone, for watching. I love this so much, and I love you, Barron, for being who you are, always being so transparent, guys. That's what it's all about. And we want to always, tell you guys, like, just go after what it is that you want to do, and the work will pay off in the future. It would never look like what you want right now, but if you're pursuing your passion and you're pursuing the things that you love doing, and you put work into it, and you keep improving yourself over time, you know what, that is the life worth living. That is what creates happiness. We're just adding value into ourselves, into our friends, and into our viewers' lives. Barron, is there anything you'd like to say before we get off this live and we say goodbye, bid goodbye today, not forever, and then see our audience again, our viewers, the next time?
I just wanted to say thank you again for the opportunity. Just for giving me the platform to sort of share what it's like to be a flight attendant. And if y'all can't tell, I love talking about being a flight attendant, and I love talking about being a travel business owner. So those, it's absolutely beautiful. But yeah, again, and I always just like to share with people and affirm with people that you have to always be kind to yourself. That's one thing that I've learned in this industry. And that helps me in turn to be kind to other people. Oftentimes, a lot of people we meet, they're fighting battles that we know nothing about. And so I just always like to say, lead with kindness. And before you give it to anyone else, just make sure you give it to yourself first.
And I'm gonna leave it with that. Be kind to yourself and be kind to others. Thank you so much. I'll see you guys the next time. Bye, guys.